It is that time of the year where the weather is getting warmer and we start taking out our summer clothes. And I know by speaking to a lot of women in my community and also just from my own personal experience and even talking to a lot of my friends, this can be a time that can bring on a lot of anxiety, a lot of negative body image and negative self-talk regarding our self-esteem and the way that our bodies looked and maybe have changed throughout the year, throughout the winter. And this is an episode that is long overdue that I've been wanting to record for a couple of weeks now to talk about how to handle the summer coming in and how to handle trying on clothes that might not fit you anymore and the negative self-talk that comes along with that. So if right now you are struggling hard with your body image, if you're trying on clothes that feels way too tight, not even wearable anymore, and you're having thoughts about needing to change your body, to lose weight, to go on just another extreme diet this summer to feel comfortable or to fit into your clothes, this episode is for you. So today we are talking about how to reframe our mindset when it comes to our body image, especially when we're feeling that clothes is not fitting. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is coming from my own personal experience going through my own body image journey and healing. Because if you know my story, you know that I have struggled with an eating disorder in the past. And I got to a weight that was way under my healthy set point weight. And I didn't know it at the time. I thought that that was the body that I was meant to be in, of course, because when we think of our goal, quote unquote, goal weight, target weight, it usually is a weight that is unrealistic for us to maintain and to even be healthy at. And I actually still have some clothes from back when I was struggling with my eating disorder. So I was at my smallest and at my unhealthiest and at my deepest in my eating disorder right before I left for Italy, which is when my food freedom journey started, when the seeds got planted on helping me see that my relationship with food and my body was extremely skewed and flawed. But like I said, at the time, so this was years and years ago, I was wearing clothes that were extremely small. And I still have some of that clothes. And that honestly is just because I don't like buying new clothes. I have like this weird ick against fast fashion. And a lot of my clothes I buy from thrift shops. And this is just my own personal experience. For some reason, I think that there's so much material in this world. And so if I can, as much as possible, give clothes a second life and avoid always buying new things, then that's what I'm going to do. But because of this, I've held on to a lot of clothes that no longer serve me anymore, that don't fit my here and now body. And in the past, trying on this clothes and noticing that it's not fitting me at all anymore and it fits super tight would have triggered a lot of negative self-talk and a lot of negative body image. But because I now do this for a living and I teach this to my clients every single day, and this is what I live and I embody, working on my own self-talk and body image and helping other people in my life as well, because I know that a lot of my friends are noticing their bodies changing as well. And they're having some of that resistance on buying new clothes and how to handle your body changing. And I'm always coaching people through that. And so I wanted to have a discussion with you today on how to handle our bodies changing, how to handle our clothes not fitting anymore. And a lot of the times in our diet culture driven society, we are given the message that if our clothes doesn't fit, we need to change our bodies instead of changing our clothes. And this is so harmful because I have so many women who come to me and who tell me that they need to lose weight in order to feel comfortable and confident in their clothes. We think that if we change our bodies instead of changing our clothes, then everything's going to be fixed and our body image is going to be better and our confidence is going to be better. And so today what I'm going to do is I want to walk you through I want to walk you through some of the things that I have done for myself in terms of changing my mindset, some of the reminders that I have to keep telling myself, because these like subconscious beliefs that we've been socialized to believe when it comes to body image, they can pop up from time to time. And especially on bad body image days, we tend to, the things that we see in the mirror are a reflection of how we feel about ourselves, and then we put it onto our bodies. So the way that I describe bad body image days to my clients is that, have you noticed that like there's some days we're going to look in the mirror and you don't completely hate what you see and you're kind of okay with it, and even some days you're like, wow, I look really good, and then literally the next day you can look in the mirror and you hate what you see and you think, how did I possibly like this exact same body yesterday? And this is a perfect example of the fact that body image is something that lives in our mind, not in the number on the scale or the size of your jeans, because your body did not drastically change from one day to another. The way that you feel about your body did. And so the work that I do is about changing the way that we feel and think about our bodies without constantly needing to change it in order to feel better about ourselves. Because I'm sure that a lot of you have experienced this, where you look at pictures from when you were 20, 30 years old and your body was smaller, thinner than it is now. And you see these pictures and you're like, oh my God, I hated my body back then and I would give anything to be back in that body. And whenever we're in, like whatever bodies we're in, if our mindset is towards the negative, if we always feel like we are not enough, then it doesn't matter what size we're in, it doesn't matter how much weight we lose, we're still gonna have the same thought patterns than we did in that earlier body. So without further ado, let's get into some of the things that I always strive to reframe and remind myself, because especially this summer is a summer that over the winter, my body changed a lot, and I am in a slightly bigger body than I have been in the past. And again, like this change in body would have triggered a lot of negative self-talk for me in the past. But now it's through these different reframes that I'm able to fully accept my here and now body and wear clothes that makes me feel more confident, feel more comfortable. And before I get into today's topic and trainings and content, I also just want to note and I want to state that I am coming from a place of a straight white woman in a smaller body. So I do know, and I want to acknowledge that I do have that thin privilege. And this is not something that ever escapes my mind. And I know that we live in a society that is extremely weight biased and fat phobic, and that women in larger bodies, especially in the fashion industry, get treated differently. And I want to definitely acknowledge that. But a lot of the things I'm going to talk about happen more on the mental side. And so I just wanted to make sure that I got that out of the way. So the first thing that I always have to remind myself, and I want you to do that for yourself as well, and some of these things that you might already know, but it's always helpful for me to reframe that. So for example, back in my much smaller body, I was obsessed with fitting in the smallest size jeans, right? Like if I could get to a 0 or if I could get to a 2, even though my body was not at all meant to be those sizes, for me, the numbers meant so much for me. And I know that this is something that a lot of people struggle with, going from a size 10 to a size 12, like going up that size, and they associate so much meaning to that number. And just that number can create a lot of anxiety and a lot of negative self-talk. And one thing that I always remind myself is that, and this is like a known fact, there is no standard sizing system in the fashion industry. Have you ever walked into a store being one size and then trying on the exact same size in another store and having that clothing item not fit you? I have definitely been through that. I mean, even in my closet now of clothes that does fit me, it runs a gamut of a bunch of different sizes, from a medium to a large, from a 8 to a 12. Like, it's all over the place. And the reason why is because following a standard sizing system in the fashion industry is a completely voluntary act for clothing manufacturers. So most clothing companies choose to create their own sizing standards based on the demographic they tend to cater towards. So for instance, companies like Old Navy will have a target population that differs in body shapes, lifestyles, and incomes compared to the target population of a company like Zara. And I mean, I could talk about Zara in a whole different episode, and I would say that they do have very nice clothes. But for me, in terms of the models that they choose and their sizing chart in general, it just doesn't feel right for me. It doesn't sit right for me. But one thing that you'll notice is that the models at Old Navy often resemble like that family next door type, while we typically associate the models at Zara to be like high-end fashion models. And another thing that's important to remember as well is that fashion models and their body shapes and sizes is not a representation of health. A lot of the times we look at fashion models and we think that is the ideal body type and that's the body type to strive for. And that's because we live in a culture that associates a smaller body with healthier body. And a lot of the time, like, this is not new news that eating disorders, unhealthy relationships with food, body dysmorphia run rampant in the fashion industry. And I know this because I come from a toxic environment of a sport where there is a lot of that same mentality. Synchronized swimming is about being tall, being thin, and remember that these models don't necessarily have a healthy relationship with food. In fact, they probably don't. They probably don't have a very healthy relationship with their bodies as well. In the past year, I worked with someone who was a fashion model, and the way she would talk about her bodies and the way she would talk about herself, you could tell that there was so much deep-rooted negative self-talk that you're always picking out your flaws. And this girl was beautiful. I mean, she was gorgeous. She had a great personality. And you could tell that even with all of that, she didn't like herself. And so just because a model looks a certain way or someone looks a certain way, it doesn't even have to be a model, and they look great in clothes, and we put on, like, we take our mindset and we put it onto these people thinking, well, they must be confident, they must be happy, they must love themselves if they look that way. And remember that the way that they look, the exterior, really has nothing to do with the way that someone actually feels internally. And again, going back to my story, when I was in a smaller body, I felt the worst about myself than I ever had. And I never could have thought that I could love myself, I could accept myself in a bigger body, in the body that I have now. Back in the day, I never thought that that would have been possible because I didn't know how to do the body image work that is needed to find that self-esteem, that confidence, regardless of what your body looks like. So that is one thing that I always remember is there's no standard sizing system. When you go to a store, whether you're a 12 or 14 or 16 or large or medium or small, it is arbitrary. Every clothing company decides on what they want to do with sizes. And so really, I would say my biggest advice is to stop associating so much meaning to the size of your clothes. And that brings me to the second point. And this sounds silly, but also remember that you're not walking around with a big number on your chest. So you're not walking around with a big X or L or XL or 3 or 6. No one knows the size of your clothing. No one, and honestly, no one cares. You've never gone to a party and showed up with a really nice outfit and had someone ask you, what size is your shirt? No, people only notice if that clothes feels good on you, if it looks good on you. And what what has become really important to me is that when I put on a pair of pants, you are going to look less comfortable. You're going to look less good, less fashionable if you're wearing clothes that doesn't fit you, but it's the size that you think that you should, quote unquote, should be. And so what's so much more important for me now is wearing clothes that, regardless if it's a large or a 10 or a 20 or whatever size it is, what's important to me is that I feel comfortable in it and that it fits my body. I had one of my clients in my last cohort in the Food Freedom Academy, and we were talking about body image and shopping for new clothes, and she decided to finally go up a size, right? Because she had been fighting her body for so long, keeping clothes that didn't fit her because hopefully one day I'm going to fit into it. And all that did is perpetuate the frustration and the anger and the negative self-talk because she couldn't get herself into that clothes. And finally, she decided that the number didn't matter anymore. And she was going to go up a size, and she was choosing to be accepting and to feel comfortable over trying so hard to fit into a number that really means nothing. And what was interesting about this client is that she started with workout clothes. So she went up a size in workout clothes. And what she noticed is that when she actually felt comfortable in her workout clothes, right? Like the elastic band around the waist wasn't cutting her circulation and the shorts weren't ratting up her bum. They actually fit her here and now body. She was actually more excited to work out, right? She was more excited and motivated to work out. And this is something that I've experienced for myself as well, because right now, a lot of my workout clothes don't fit me. A lot of my workout clothes right up my bum. And when you start working out, wearing clothes that feel uncomfortable, the whole experience is uncomfortable. And what I've done is I bought new workout clothes because I didn't like the feeling of waking up in the morning and then stressing out about what am I going to wear? What's going to fit me? It's just an uncomfortable feeling. And then you're not excited about doing the actual workout. And same goes for any kind of social event, right? Like, we don't want to go out. We don't want to go to the restaurant. We don't want to see people when we don't have anything to wear, when we dread the act of getting dressed because nothing is going to fit. And honestly, keeping clothes in your closet that no longer fits you and refusing to buy clothes that fits your here and now body that would allow you to feel more confident, more comfortable going out to social events is a sign of punishment. It is a punishment against yourself now. It is not a sign of self-love. It is not a sign of self-respect. An act of self-love is allowing yourself to feel comfortable and confident in your here and now body so that you want to go out, so that you have less anxiety getting dressed in the morning. And this perpetuates the cycle because the less we go out, the worse we feel about ourselves, the more we isolate ourselves. And isolation leads to less joy in our lives. When we have less joy, we turn to food. Food becomes a coping mechanism for how unhappy we feel in our lives because we're not feeling fulfilled. And this just really does become a perpetuating cycle. And that's why when I work with my clients, yes, we talk about the food, but it's so much more. than just the food. It's about your entire life, the joy that you get, the fulfillment that you feel, your social relationships, how you feel in your body image. All of these little things have to do with one another. And so having it starts with just feeling comfortable in your body and waking up in the morning and not dreading the act of dressing yourself. And I know that a lot of you might be thinking right now, well, nothing fits me. When I go clothes shopping, there's nothing in my size. And this I know is a reality for a lot of people. Our fashion industry is geared towards thin, straight bodies. And so that's one thing that I've definitely had to learn for myself, as I was talking about Zara, is when I go shopping, I'm trying not to set myself up for failure. I'm trying not to set myself up for feeling badly about myself. So I'm not going to go shopping at clothing stores that I know will make me feel like crap, will make me feel bad because a certain size that should technically fit me feels like it could fit my 4-year-old niece. So I am, and this goes back to the notion of buying new clothes. Like I was saying, I feel personally like I don't love buying new clothes. And also in this day and age, clothes can be really expensive. And I know that this is something that holds people back, is like, well, I don't have the money to go buying new clothes. And that's why I personally I'll go to thrift shops. There's a bunch of clothing apps that you can do, clothing exchanges. There's really different ways to get new clothes that fit your body now that doesn't have to be super expensive. And also knowing where to shop. If you are in a bigger body, then don't go to Zara. Again, that, or don't go to Abercrombie and Fitch. I don't even know if that's still a company. Or I'm trying to think of what's that? Brandy Melville. And I'm pretty sure their motto is one size fits all or something. No, knowing where to shop in a place that's going to have clothing in your size that is not going to create a bunch of negative self-talk when you go is really important. So another thing that I want to talk about the fashion industry is that the ideal image is for profit. It is not for health. And this is something I found out about, obviously the ideology there is pretty obvious, but when I was doing some research on the fashion industry for this podcast, there's something that I learned about being cost effective. The fashion industry is a business. Companies strive to reduce cost as much as possible and prefer straight patterns as they're less costly to produce. So I was reading an article from someone in the fashion industry describing this concept, and she explained it in that way. If one individual has a body shape that was straight and another individual had a body shape with many curves, who do you think it would be easier to design a t-shirt for? If you guessed the straight body type, that would be correct. As all body shapes are unique, it would be ideal to design a template customized for each body type that matches every single curve as well as the height of the individual. However, that's not feasible for mass production. Basing sizing systems on one body shape and reducing the number of sizes acts as a huge money saver for the manufacturer. As a result, the fashion industry will prioritize tall and slim female bodies because it saves them money and makes it easier for them to produce in large quantities. So if you don't fit the mold, you'll feel the need to change your body at all costs to start, quote unquote, fitting in. And so when I'm shopping and I'm putting on something that doesn't feel good, that doesn't look good on me, in the past, I would have thought, there is something wrong with my body and I need to change my body, instead of the fact that there is something wrong with this piece of clothing or it is not meant for my specific body. I always remind myself that there is no right body. And I use this analogy all the time, but it is really helpful to compare it to different body sizes and body shapes for dogs. When you go to a dog park and you see a Chihuahua and you see a Bulldog and you see a Great Dane and you see a Golden Retriever, you are going to see all kinds of bodies, and you're not going to be there deciding which has the best body. You'll know that all of those different dogs are meant to have different bodies. And so I always remind myself that there is not a right or wrong body size. There are different body shapes and sizes all over the world. And the people that you see in the fashion magazines or on social media represents about 5% of the population. We don't see the diversity. We don't see the different body shapes and sizes, but they're out there. And so when you're trying on a piece of clothing that doesn't look good on you or that doesn't feel right, remind yourself that not all clothes is meant for your body shape or size. And that's what I always remind myself, because this goes to another point, and it kind of goes hand in hand, is I've really realized that I might not be dressing myself the same way that I used to. When I was really sick and in a way too small of a body, I used to dress a certain way. It was tight pants, skinny jeans, crop tops, tight leggings, like a lot of things that molded my body. And I don't look good in that kind of fashion anymore. Now I feel good and I look better in things that are more flowy, in things that don't necessarily mold every curve and every piece of my body. And I just know, and I, especially this year, I just acknowledge that, like, oh yeah, you're just going to have to dress differently now. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, my fashion changing according to what my body changing, there's nothing wrong with creating that adjustment. It's a cycle of life. Our bodies are meant to change. And I'm not going to try to wear the same things that I tried to wear when I was 15 years old, because we can acknowledge that from the age of 12 to the age of 15 to the age of 18, our bodies are going to change. And when we're 15, if we were to try to fit into our clothes from when we were 12, we wouldn't feel shame and guilt if it was way too tight, right? We acknowledge that our bodies are meant to change. And we don't think, I have to change my body in order to fit this clothes. We buy new clothes. Like, it's a no-brainer. We know that our bodies are going to change. And our society has convinced us, has socialized us to believe that once you hit a certain age, whether it's 22 or 25 or whatever, and I urge you to actually ask yourself, like, what age have I been socialized to believe is the age that my body would stop changing? I think for me, back then, it was probably like as early as 18 years old. I thought that as of 18 years old, that was my body, no more changing, no matter what my life circumstances were, my work life, my social life, my relation life. Like, I just thought that it would just kind of stay about the same. And so ask yourself, like, what age has I been conditioned to believe that my body would just stay the same? And that just doesn't take into account the reality that bodies are meant to change, not just over the years, but even throughout a specific year. For me personally, I know that in the winter, I tend to gain a little bit more weight. My clothes, and I'm just saying that because I know that my clothes tend to get a little bit tighter. And in the past, I would have shamed myself and felt so bad about it. And now I can recognize that it's normal. It's normal, and there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with my body. In the winter, I move less. I get less of that NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is a type of movement that just happens naturally, right? So I get less walking in because I'm not walking to places. I'm taking more like transportation means, and you're not biking as much, and you're just not moving as much in the winter. That just is, for me personally, that's just a matter of fact. And you're maybe eating differently and your lifestyle is different. And so also, like, as you're putting clothes on, and it might be April or May, like, you've just spent a winter maybe moving less as well, and acknowledging that it's okay that your body is going to change throughout the year or throughout the many years. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the reason why we feel so negatively is because we don't accept it. We don't accept that our bodies are meant to change. And so we hold on to clothes that realistically we might never fit into as a way of punishing ourselves for our bodies changing. So that was a little tangent. But another thing, and this is massive, and you might have heard this before, but remembering that clothes is supposed to fit you. You are not supposed to fit your clothes. This is something I talked about a little bit earlier. When we notice that clothes is not fitting us, our instant reaction is, I need to change my body, instead of, I need to change my clothes. We think there's something wrong with my body, instead of, there's something wrong with my clothes. If I were to try to put on my 4-year-old niece's clothes and it didn't fit, I wouldn't think, oh, well, I need to change my body in order to fit that. And it's kind of crazy to think, but even back when I was going through like my initial recovery from my eating disorder, and there was still a lot of mindset work that needed to be done, I probably would have put on some of my clothes from when I had an eating disorder and see that it didn't fit and think, I've done something wrong, without realizing that, what did it take me to fit into that clothes? I had a legitimate eating disorder. That's what it took me to fit into that clothes. Why would I ever want to go back there? And I want you to ask yourself the same thing with whatever clothes that you're holding on to. What did it take you to get into that clothes? Like, what were you doing at the time? Were you doing Weight Watchers and counting every single point that you were eating? Were you on some kind of restrictive low carb keto diet that made you think about carbs and sugar all the time? Were you on an even more extreme detoxed or starving yourself? That's a big thing. Like, were you starving yourself and over exercising to fit into that body? Was your entire life project about maintaining weight loss and eating quote unquote clean in order to fit that body? If maintaining a certain body weight or shape required you over exercising, restricting and starving yourself, putting your life on hold, doing something that was, if we're being honest, quite unrealistic and unsustainable for the rest of your life, chances are that's not the body that you were meant to be at. And holding on to clothes that you were fitting in at the time is not, it's not kind to yourself, because that's not your body. And if I were to hold on to like my 18-year-old clothes in my closet, and every time I open my closet, I see it there, and I remind myself that I don't have that body anymore, you're just creating more shame and more negative feelings for yourself. And we're going to talk a little bit more in detail in a little bit about how to shop and how to create a wardrobe that feels better for you. But going back to this notion that your clothes is supposed to fit you. You are not supposed to fit your clothes. Registered dietitian Christy Harrison, if you don't know her, she has an amazing podcast called Food Psych, and she wrote the book Anti-Diet. She talked about how it's very interesting that people didn't begin comparing their bodies until the industrialization in the textile industry. When industrialized textiles and standard sizings came along, this contributed to the mindset that we need to conform to a certain body type. If women continue to be busy, quote unquote, fixing their bodies, they won't have time and energy to live out their purpose in life. And I want you to imagine and just think about the amount of time and energy that you've dedicated towards trying to fix your body in order to fit into old clothes. And this could be years. And imagine if instead you just decided, today I'm going to buy clothes that fits my here and now body. And I'm going to focus on creating a healthier relationship with food and my body. If your body is meant to release weight, if you are currently over your set point weight, chances are there is some overeating, some binging, maybe a lack of movement that is contributing to you not feeling great in your body. And the best way to start feeling better is to develop a healthier relationship with food in your body and to approach your habits from a place of self-love instead of a place of punishment, feeling the need to change your body in order to feel worthy. So right now I'm going to do a little check-in. And what I recommend that you do is, if you haven't done so already, I am a really big fan of being an active listener, whether you're watching a training or you're listening to a podcast or you're reading a book, is to take notes. Because when we're a passive listener, we just take it in, but we don't really integrate it into our psyche, into our subconscious, then it comes in one ear, out the other. So what I recommend that you do now is to pause and write down some notes. Write down some of the biggest things that you took away so far and mindset shifts to use as you're going into this summer season, trying on clothes that possibly might not fit you. And yeah, just writing down some key points so that you can come back to it on those bad body image days, or when you go shopping, or when you're trying on some clothes that don't fit. Because next, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a few tips that I use and that I actually teach my clients. I have a training on this in the Food Freedom Academy on how to go shopping for new clothes. So let's say that you've listened to this training and you realize, okay, maybe you're not going to change your entire wardrobe, but maybe it's time for me to buy a couple of items, whether that's workout clothes that fits me so I feel more comfortable, whether that is underwear that doesn't ride up my bum and squeeze every piece of my lower body. Maybe it's a new bra that doesn't squeeze your back and that actually fits you now. Like whatever you need, and new pants, new shorts, like a summer dress, like things that will make you excited to put it on because it fits you and because you feel good in it. It will make a massive difference for you. So let's say that you've decided, okay, I'm going to start small. And I'm going to start dressing my here and now body. And that's a big thing, is like to learn to dress your here and now body. Not just a body that you hope that one day, someday you'll be. Dressing where you're at now so that you can feel confident now. And if your body changes again, then your body changes again. But the goal is to feel comfortable now. So a few of my shopping tips. So if that's you and you've decided, okay, I'm going to go buy some new clothes. It doesn't matter what size it is. Like I just need to feel good. The number one thing is to go on a day where you feel good, right? Like we don't want to go shopping on a bad body image day. We don't want to go shopping a week before your period where you feel bloated, you feel heavy. Like right now, I am in that week and I would not go shopping with how I'm feeling right now. And I just can acknowledge that that's a week where it's just going to be a bad body image week. It happens, and accepting that and not letting it stop me from going out to see friends or taking pictures or being myself, right? Like not letting a bad body image day or a bad body image week ruin other parts of my life that are so great, like my social life and my relationships, because then we're feeding it and we're making it worse. And then we start being so afraid of those bad body image days because we know that that's the days where we end up isolating ourselves. So allowing bad body image days to happen, because regardless of what your shape, what your size is, bad body image days happen to absolutely everyone. So it's to go on a day where you feel good, or at least you feel neutral. And you could either go alone. I personally prefer going alone because shopping could be a long event for me. I want to make sure that I am not just buying something because I'm rushed or because I don't want to bother someone or I don't want to burden someone by taking a bunch of time. So I really want to be able to personally take my time and make the decisions and buy clothes that I want to buy and that I chose to buy, not just because I was running out of time. But if you're someone who prefers to go shopping with someone else who understands like body image issues and all of that struggle, then listen to your heart, listen to your gut, and do what feels good for you. So shop for the body that you have right now. This is what I was saying before. Stop trying on clothes that quote unquote might fit someday. It's the clothes' job to fit you, not the other way around. Taking home new clothes that you can't wear because they don't actually fit is not going to make you feel good. And it's probably going to feel a lot of shame inducing, which is not helpful to anyone. The body that you have right now in this moment deserves to be properly dressed. Another thing is this could happen before or after you go shopping, is to get rid of everything that you no longer need or want or feel good in. So we have a whole process on how to clean out your closet, but this is something that you could do today, is to start really small. Like, don't go all or nothing trying to purge your entire closet. But before you go shopping, so that you know what needs to be bought, you could look at your closet, your underwear, your bras, your shirts, and start taking out and donating or giving away or selling or throwing out clothes that just no longer serve you. And being realistic with ourselves that I haven't fit in this in years. And I'm not going to keep it in the hopes that one day I will shift my body enough for this clothes to fit me. And you'll notice that when you wake up in the morning and you're looking at your clothes now, you're not being reminded of a past body or of the quote unquote failure that you feel for your body changing. Imagine waking up in the morning and you look at your closet and it's all clothes that fits you now. And you don't have like just 2 shirts or 2 pairs of pants or even just 1 pair of pants that you can wear because nothing else fits. Imagine how much pressure and how much negative feelings that would alleviate by looking at your closet and not dreading that moment that you have to get dressed. Now you've gone clear on what clothes you need to buy. Now you go shopping, right? And you're feeling good about yourself. You go to a store that doesn't set you up for failure, right? So let's not go to Zara or American Eagle, which, does not cater to the majority of shapes and sizes. Going to a store that holds bigger sizes, larger sizes that will have a bigger possibility of fitting your body. And then when you get to the store, and this is what I do, I don't look at sizes anymore. So I will look, let's say I'm looking for a pair of shorts, because right now I want to buy some new shorts for the summer. And again, like, knowing what kind of clothes you feel good in. I am no longer doing the short shorts, booty shorts, tight shorts. Like, I know what feels good for me is a pair of shorts that is flowy, especially on my thighs, because I have these, what I call my big, strong thighs. And so having like those short shorts and those tight shorts just doesn't feel good on me. I'm self-conscious when I'm wearing that. So I'm looking for some nice, flowy, longer shorts. That's what makes me feel good. That's the kind of fashion that fits my here and now body. So I'm not going to look at sizes. I'm going to look at the clothing and I'm going to ask myself, does this look like this would fit me? Right, so I'll look at a bunch of different sizes, but again, not looking at the labels, just taking a bunch of different sizes. And I'll look at, does this look like it would fit me? And sometimes it's inevitable that you'll look at sizes, because if you want to get a bunch of different sizes, then you have to look at the label. But grab a bunch of different sizes of the same clothing, bring it to the changing station, and then try it on without looking in the mirror first, right? And I will normally try on the biggest size first. So I'll try on the biggest size first, because when you try on the smallest size first, and then it doesn't fit, again, like there's going to be that negative self-talk. And so I'm going to try on the biggest size first without looking in the mirror. And I'm going to ask myself, does this feel good? Does this feel good on my body? Does it feel comfortable? Before I even look in the mirror, I want to make sure that it feels good and comfortable on me. And then if it does, then I can turn around. If it doesn't fit, if it's too big, I'll try on a smaller size. If it's too small, then I will ask the clerk to get me a bigger size. So once the clothing feels comfortable, then you can turn around and you can look, do I like the way that it looks? And if I don't, right away, if I don't immediately love it and feel good in it, I take it off. No, but if I were able to alter it, or if I sucked in my stomach all day, not like if I found the right pair of shirt to like fit with this. No. If it doesn't feel good, and I know that I wouldn't be able to wear this all day long because it would be uncomfortable, or because it would be squeezing a certain part of my body, then I take it off. No go, right? You want to move around with it. I want to make sure that if I'm wearing this pair of pants and I'm going out to dinner and I'm sitting in a booth, then I feel comfortable, that it's not squeezing against my stomach or against my thighs, because it is really hard to be present in life and to be able to really order the food that you want if you're being reminded that how uncomfortable you are in your body. It's really hard. I remember like going to BBQs at my family get-togethers, and I would be wearing clothes that don't fit me. And of course, the entire time, like you're not able to fully engage and be present because you're so uncomfortable, and all you can think about is your body. Like so many of my clients, once they went through the process that I teach them about how to get comfortable in their bodies, and they start wearing clothes that fits them, they all tell me the same thing, which is, oh my God, I didn't realize how much wearing clothes that doesn't feel comfortable, whether that's just underwear or bras, wearing clothes that doesn't feel comfortable on me perpetuates the cycle of body shaming and of body thoughts and obsession, and not even thinking we're deserving of eating the foods that we truly want or crave, and then end up binging later because we think that there's something wrong with our bodies. So again, wearing clothes that you know feel good and you can wear all day and it's going to feel comfortable. And then if you decide this feels comfortable, I don't need to alter it. Or maybe like if it's too long, for example, if it's a pair of pants that are too long and you want to hem them, that's a different story. But you want to make sure that it feels like naturally comfortable on you. You like the way it looks. Then you can go and bring that home and wake up in the morning feeling excited to put on this new pair of pants or clothing that makes you feel comfortable and more confident. So that is, I ended up going a little bit longer, but honestly, I could talk about this for hours. And this is something, body image is a topic that we're constantly talking about in the academy because it is a journey. And I think the reason why I'm able to talk about it in a way that is insightful and that I'm able to relate to my clients is because I've had to do this work on myself. And again, like I acknowledge that I have thin privilege, but I've definitely had my fair share of body image issues and body dysmorphia, and thinking that I was overweight or that there was something wrong with my body when I was severely underweight. And crazy enough, now I'm in a body that is bigger than where I was back then. That is my right body. And I don't think there's anything wrong with my body. And I'm able to go into the summer knowing that I have the permission to no longer need or want to lose weight. And if my body changes because I get more movement in or whatever the hell happens this summer, then so be it. I will buy clothes that fits my here and now body at all stages of my life. I will go to the thrift shops. I will do clothing swaps with my friends, whatever I need to do to feel comfortable. That is my number one priority now. So that is my little spiel on body image and going into the summer. So right now, your action step is to take some notes on what was the most helpful for you and to go look at your closet and look at things that realistically you haven't worn in years, because this is a big thing that I hear from so many of my clients and people in my community. As you look at your closet and you've got about 10 different sizes in there, I want you to look at your closet, look at what fits, look at what doesn't, look at what serves you, look at what doesn't, and get rid of anything that makes you feel bad about yourself because you don't fit into it anymore. Donate it, put it into a box, give it to someone, because it's not serving you and it's making you feel worse about yourself. And then choose the most impactful thing that you can buy. Maybe it's underwear, maybe it's a bra, maybe it's one new pair of pants or shorts, or a nice dress that is flowy, that makes you feel comfortable, right? Start small and then work your way up. And remember that you're not walking around with a huge number on your chest of what size you're wearing, and that you'll actually look better and feel better in clothes that fits you. And again, connect with me on Instagram. Come join me. Let's have a conversation, Sabrina Magnan Health. And if this episode was helpful, share it with a friend, share it with someone who might be struggling with the same summer body image issues, who could use this episode and could get some value out of it. Thank you so much for listening. I am off to New York tomorrow and I am so excited. So if anyone has any recommendations, I'm going there with my best friend. And that's another reason why I went and bought new clothes, because I want to go and feel comfortable and wear clothes that fits my here and now body. So if you have any recommendations, send them over to me on Instagram. I want to hear them. And thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.